Broadcasts of the City of Neenah Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin-Fox Valley. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents via the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues or about these broadcasts by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or by completing the electronic feedback form on the city website, www.neenahgov.org. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.
We're going to get going. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Common Council for Wednesday, April 4th, 2018. Welcome to everyone who came to visit tonight. The first item of business will be the roll call. Members will sign in on the electronic machine and answer your name when the clerk calls the roll.
Alderman Boyette.
Here.
Bates.
Here.
Hillstrom.
Here.
Lendrum.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Lang.
Here.
Polno.
Here.
Coons.
Here.
Stevenson.
Here.
There is a quorum. There's 9 members present. All members are present. The Pledge of Allegiance, join us, will be led by Alderman Polno tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Survived the snowstorm, I guess, so it's melting already. Item number 2 is introduction and confirmation of any mayor's appointments. Item number A, Mayor Crawford's appointment of Jim Kluge to fill the vacant position created by the resignation of Lori Olson on the Neenah Arts Council for an indefinite tenure. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates, seconded by Alderman Erickson. Any comments or questions? This is Lori Olson's resigning because she's retiring at the end of May, so no other reason. So we'll talk about her as we get closer to retirement. But Jim got her position, and we're putting him on the council. All right. All in favor of the motion will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine, please. That motion passes 9-0. Okay. Tonight we have a public hearing. Item number 4 is a public hearing. My director of Public Works is going to be ready for this, but I think a Coke just went over or something. But tonight's public hearing will consider special assessments for curb, gutter, and pavement construction on Kingswood Drive, Remington Road, Paintbrush Road, and Shooting Star Drive in the Eagle Crest subdivision. We opened the bids this morning. What I'm going to ask Jerry to do first, Jerry's our Public Works Director, is just to give you a short synopsis of the bids that came in today and where we're at, because that may answer some of the questions and help you better understand, the residents better understand what we learned today with regards to the bids. And then we'll open it up to the general public for any comments or questions. With that, Director Kaiser.
All right, thank you, Mayor. As he mentioned, we did open bids on contract 3-18 today. Aside from a couple of peripheral projects, the bulk of the work related to street construction in the nature trail and Eagle Crest area. Base bid being the streets in the nature trail area, Whispering Pines Lane, Lone Oak Drive, Pondview Court, Remington Court, and then 2 sections of Nature Trail Drive. The alternate bid included some streets in the Eagle Crest area, so that's the combined bid. Kingswood Drive, Remington Road, Paintbrush Road, and Shooting Star Drive. Starting with the base bid, Nature Trail 2018, the assessment report that was approved through committee was at $110 per accessible foot. Due to some design changes and very good pricing that was received today, based on bids, we are estimating that assessment rate at around $79 per foot. So a pretty significant reduction. The combined bid for 2018, so this is all the streets out in that area getting curb and gutter. Again, the assessment report rate that was approved at committee was $80 per accessible foot. Based on bids, we're at about $67.50 per accessible foot. So again, good pricing. The numbers, as you'll see later when the action of the Board of Public Works is taken up, the numbers that we saw for asphalt pavement on this contract, we had 4 bidders, and the low bid had pricing for asphalt that was about $1.50 a ton lower than what we saw 2 years ago, and about $8 less than we saw last year. So again, good pricing. The other line on here, just to give us, I guess, a little bit of basis for where Eagle Crest could land in 2020. What we did was take the unit prices that we saw for the Nature Trail, so for the base bid, applied them to the quantities for the Eagle Crest work, and then increased those by pricing by 3% per year to reach 2020. So our calculation, and again, this is subject to any sort of volatility in the oil markets, which impacts asphalt and concrete. What we projected would be just over $67 per accessible foot for the 2020 Eagle Crest assessment rate. Is there anything else you'd like me to cover, Mayor?
I just want you to, so some of the other, those initial numbers, the 110, the 80,
Sure.
those were estimates.
Those were
estimates
estimates.
done by the department.
Those were estimates done by the department based on unit pricing that we saw last year and the few prior years, along with the standard cross-section design, so designing the streets in our typical fashion. Our engineers were able to modify some of the design in order to minimize some of the undercutting that we were projecting. This mainly affected the Nature Trail work. And then, as I mentioned, the pricing that we received relative to our estimated pricing was much lower in a number of significant ways.
And one other component of the bids was the aprons. Can you explain that?
Yeah, the aprons, we bid out, again this year, a concrete and an asphalt apron unit price quantity. So the concrete apron, 6-inch apron, that number stayed pretty steady relative to our engineer's estimate and consistent with what we saw a couple years ago. The asphalt apron estimate, I don't have a good read as to why. I haven't talked to the contractor on this one. Came in significantly lower than what we had estimated and a fair bit lower than what we saw 2 years ago. So we will be, regardless of which route the council chooses to go with the contract, we'll be sending an informational note out to all the affected property owners, and they'll have an option of selecting either a concrete or an asphalt apron, and we'll have a unit price attached to that, since that is a direct cost to the homeowner.
And that asphalt price was about half of what we estimated?
Yeah, we had estimated $4 a square foot. 3 of the 4 bidders were in the $3.50 to $4 range. The winning bidder was at $1.80, so significant difference.
Okay. I don't want to get too much in the weeds with Jerry, but we want to hear from the people, but we'll take a question or two if it's relevant to the information.
And Jerry, just to clarify, the Eagle Crest 2020 at 6712, that would be taking advantage of Nature Trail assessment if it was done, and just Nature Trail now, they would be covering all the streets, so they would get a little bump in theirs, whereas Eagle Crest would get a break in theirs because the intersections would already be done.
That would be correct, yeah. The Nature Trail, the base project in 2018, included the easterly section of Nature Trail Drive and Remington Court, which, if we're drawing firm boundary lines, really lies within the Eagle Crest plat.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I just wanted to give you and the audience the basics, and we can get into the questions. First, we will consider remarks or questions or comments from the general public at this time. So the public hearing is open. If any of you would like to ask a question or a comment to the council, now is the time to do it. Or if you want clarification on the bids today, we ask that you come down to the microphone, give us your name and your address, just so we have it for the record. And welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Larry Krieger. I live at 1548 Kingswood Drive. Lived there for 5 months. So, one question: is sidewalks being considered?
Sidewalks have been requested at this conjuncture. I don't believe so. In certain areas, but not there. Correct.
In the Eagle Crest area, the only sidewalks that were noted on the development plat are on Paintbrush Road. So those are included as part of the bid. That's the extent of sidewalk in that area, other than Nature Trail Drive.
Thank you. Another question. Has there been any consideration with all this additional activity in that area of extending Shooting Star Drive through to the town road of Armstrong?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jerry.
That extension was in the budget a number of years ago and has been carried forward in the budget. We have an annexation process that we need to work through before we would be able to do that. Chris can address the annexation process part of it. If that can be accomplished this year and tied into, it could potentially be tied into this contract. It's not part of the plan at this point.
I particularly would appreciate that, would enjoy having a second exit from our area versus going all the way down the Nature Trail and then back through on Pendleton. My final question involved aprons. We currently have a blacktop apron. Is that going to be totally destroyed, having to replace all of it, or how do you foresee that? Concrete would be the same question, I guess, but...
Yeah, with most of the builders, we had encouraged them to put in a thinner than typical apron, simply because we knew whatever was going to be out there was going to be temporary. I don't know in your specific case what was constructed. We'll save what we can, but for the most part, we'll need to go back roughly to the property line in most cases in order to match in.
Match the road.
Okay. That brings up another question. I don't know where the property line is, but I'll leave that one go. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we can help you out with the property line if you'd like us to check it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Who else would like to address the council?
Hi, Eric Matson, 1560 Kingswood Drive. Just a quick question regarding the aprons. It was mentioned that it would be decided upon whether the asphalt or the concrete would be selected. Does that involve everyone then in this subdivision having the same apron? Or would it be up to individual homeowners to decide whether concrete
Individual.
It's an individual selection.
Okay, thank you.
Evening, Jeff Linsky, 1563 Kingswood Drive. Just a question on the sidewalk. We're on the corner there where we're going to get the sidewalk. Was there any thought put forward to not have a sidewalk there? Because we have 3 sidewalks that lead into the preserve already that go nowhere. So we could take that money for the sidewalk and put it towards the curb and gutter.
The money for the sidewalk was escrowed by the developer.
Okay, I mean, if it's sitting somewhere, can't we take it and dump it in a different account?
It was specifically set aside in the developer's agreement to go towards sidewalk. So I don't believe we can allocate that
Sidewalks that go to
elsewhere.
nowhere make no sense.
First of all, I'll ask the city attorney if that's possible, okay? And then,
No, it's in trust for sidewalks.
Is there a way of doing without sidewalks and give the money back to the developer? Or, I mean, having a sidewalk that leads nowhere just makes no sense.
That would be a policy decision of the council.
very good.
Well, I guess only that we don't have a full build out in that area yet. So, and I'm talking about to the west. So there's potential use for sidewalk heading out to connect that area to the west into the Carpenter Preserve area.
To answer your question, I suppose the council could change that policy, potentially stated, but no intention at this point. But now that you brought it up, council can consider it, okay?
William Ned, 1516 Remington Road. Just a couple of questions. First is just a general timeline of this project. I'm a little bit confused by, I know that the initial plan was for a 2020. Is this for sure going to happen in Eagle Crest in 2018?
But we're here tonight to decide.
Okay.
So there's been no decision made. We met with the homeowners a few weeks ago, and we told them that we were going to put these out to bid and that we would see where the bids came. So no decisions have been made till we got the bids.
Okay, very good. My other question is, assuming that, a decision is approved this evening, what's being done to lock in favorable pricing considering the different costs associated with this project?
The city's not bound to, but they normally take the low bidder if they meet all qualifications. When the city the council would vote to accept, when the council would vote to accept the bids, that would lock it in, so to speak.
Yeah, the council is required to accept the lowest responsible bidder on the project. And once that's contractually locked in, it's locked in for the contract.
Okay, very good. Final question. There was something in the mailing that we received talking about whoever does the work would be replanting grass, stuff like that for whatever is disturbed. What if the timing of the project would put the planting of that grass seed late in the year, say November, December? Is there any way that we could, delay that so that whatever work is done to replant the grass has a more favorable chance of taking root and growing?
Well, we have done dormant seeding on projects that conclude late in the year. Plus, the warranty on the contract also includes the terracing work, which would be topsoiling and seeding. So if we feel that needs to be improved next year, we can follow up early next year with it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mayor.
I'd also like to address the council. Come on up, sir.
My name's Robert Page. I'm at 1329 Shooting Star Drive. Is this a profit center for the city of Neenah? Does the city make money off of this?
I guess not. In fact, it costs us additional, Mike, I can have him answer, but it costs us additional money that's not assessable, and we also own property along it, so we pay the assessment costs also, Mike? Correct? So no, there's no profit.
Okay. Second, then, after this project is completed, Is a new assessment then going to come out to the property owners in this area?
Depends on, Jim, go ahead.
The final assessment will be based on as-built costs, and will be
Yeah, are you referring to the individual property assessment or to the special?
That's correct,
assessment?
sir.
Okay. So he's looking at the assessed value of the property.
the assessed value of the property won't change as a result of this necessarily. It'll depend on the market forces.
Unless
Will not change.
Unless there's something else that would drive a reassessment,
Right.
like additional remodeling or building permit. Or
Okay, but the project itself will not,
something. The project itself does not trigger a reassessment, right?
okay?
That's correct.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for coming. And when you ask the question, just, if there's any profit, I will say this. The staff, because this is a little unusual what we're doing here, the staff time and effort, the engineers, as Jerry mentioned before, one of the ways we found ways to save money on this project is because the staff and engineering staff made some specifications and design changes that enhanced the project and made it a little bit better without sacrificing quality, because I specifically asked that we make sure we don't sacrifice any quality, that we don't change the scopes, the runoff scopes for water, anything like that. So there's actually a little bit of extra cost the city incurs because this project, we have to start over, as I understand it, with the assessment, with the special assessment plan. We're going to have to do that again. Is that correct? Could do this?
If the council decides to postpone
If the council decides, yes. Oh, okay, sir. Welcome.
It's Mark Miller, 1515 Kingswood Drive. What's the distance of the apron? What's that defined as?
The distance for the apron would be from the back of curb to the property line.
Which is what in
Which
length?
is roughly, let's see, Kingswood, that'll be a 30-foot, so probably about 15 feet.
Okay. So if we decide to go with our own source for putting down, taking care of the apron, I'm assuming when they're done with the curb, that's going to sit a little higher than what our current, because I've got gravel there right now.
Probably will, yes.
Will they drop some gravel in there so that I don't have a big drop down until I can get my contractor in to put the stuff in?
We can certainly make it passable for you until you're ready to move on with your apron.
All righty. And maybe this was said earlier, on the seeding, if the seed doesn't take, if you go ahead with the project this year and it doesn't take, does the contractor come back the following year and take care of it?
Yes, he does.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Our Director of Community Development has answer to one of the previous questions.
Just, I want to clarify the question about assessment from the gentleman from Shooting Star. What you heard is accurate, but I will tell you the city is undertaking a citywide revaluation or reassessment over the next 2 years. Not sure that will affect you or not affect, but if you get a notice of reassessment, revaluation, it happens to be coincidence and not relative to this project. Just want to make that clear.
Not tied to this project, is what Council President Stevenson wanted to clarify. So, and he just clarified it too. Okay. Welcome, sir.
I'm Nick Kurtz, and I live on 1577 Remington, and I have two questions, I guess. The first one is, so it's accurate that if, for the people on Eagle Crest, that it would be cheaper as of right now in 2020, where it was like 1650 or 6752, and then in 2020 you think it'd be 6712?
That's what we're calculating based on the pricing we received today.
It's on today's pricing that we received.
Like I mentioned last year, the asphalt price we had on our contracts was about $8 a ton higher than what we saw this time. So in round numbers, probably a 13% higher number for asphalt. It's the market can be a little volatile on those sorts of things. So, again, past performance is no indication of future result.
And then when you do put the road in, are they going to allow us down it, or is there going to be a few days where we can't go down it at all?
There will be times when, not necessarily when you can't go down it, other when the actual paving operation is going on, or when the slip forming machine's pouring the curb and gutter. Then it's going to be a little a little hard to get through the area. But for the most part, we try and keep access to the driveways as much as possible. The times when you wouldn't be would be when the curb is curing, so there'd be about a week-long period there, and probably a half a week prior to that when they set string line for the curb. If you get a concrete apron, obviously we'd want you to stay off that apron for a good week before you're back on that.
So with that, would we have to park like 3 streets down, or?
As work moves around out there, I think you'll be able to park in the general neighborhood, but there probably will be times where you're going to be closer to parking down on Nature Trail Drive or on Pendleton Road.
Okay, thank you.
What we've done, and we started a couple of years ago, is give the people who are impacted, we give them something to put in their car so they're not impacted by overnight parking or anything like that, so that the police officers who check know that they're part of the project, they can park in surrounding neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Welcome.
Ricky Johnson, 1561 Remington Road. At the last, I don't know if you call it formal, informal, we had on the 28th, 2 things were mentioned. One about a deferment of payment for a year for the Eagle Crest subdivision. And the second was on proposed interest rate that would be there at the time, suggesting possibly at prime or at like about 5%. So has there been any further discussion on that? And if that information was accurate for the 1-year deferment?
What I can tell you is there's been discussion among staff and the Board of Public Works, which you'll hear a report from later for their recommendation on the project. The actual deferment of the assessment will be done at the next meeting. Will be considered at the next meeting. But I know there has been discussion. Council members are interested in hearing those possibilities. We have talked about deferring, sending the bills out after November of this year, which would make them start in 2020 January. Is that correct? That's a proposal. 2019. So there is discussion on that for both. The possibilities exist for Eagle Crest and Nature Trail, or doing Nature Trail, assessing them this year and the other ones next year. So yes. And as far as the interest rate, at the last couple of meetings ago, I think Alderman Steve, the council went on record, and for the next year, Mike, it's going to be 5%.
That's the 2018.
2008.
So for 2019,
that has
that's
not been
another
set
decision,
yet.
right?
And the policy on setting the interest rate has been
prime plus factor, and the council again took that action and maintained the rate at 5%, even though the prime rate has gone up. Simply don't know what interest rates are going to be, and the discussion of the city making a profit or any of that, especially on special assessments as well. We certainly are not. Our borrowing, it's a little above our borrowing rate, but not much, and we have to simply weigh a lot of factors in terms of what that special assessment rate is, and that'll be up to the council. But that is a year away. The current rate is 5%.
Thank you.
Jim's got one more comment to make with regards to the deferral. Okay, sir?
The concept of deferring the special assessments will also be discussed at the Public Services Committee meeting next Tuesday.
Next week, Tuesday, that discussion will come up. Anyone else? Questions, comments?
Larry Krieger again. I'm sure my viewpoint is not shared by all the members of Eagle Crest community, but I would say sooner is better than later. Thank you.
Anyone else? we recognize that this whole project has been a little unique, and that's why we want to be as transparent and open as possible and give you the opportunity to ask your question.
Ryan Butker, 1544 Kingswood. What's the perceived schedule right now for the project of starting and completion?
We haven't set up a pre-construction meeting with a contractor yet, obviously, until we know what exactly we're going to build. But I know the concrete subcontractor is fairly anxious to get in, so I would think they'll be mobilized by late April, and possibly even pouring curb by mid-May. Completion, it's a fairly extensive project, not so much from the paving side, but from the driveway side. There's a lot of concrete to pour, a lot of small work that way, so that will probably extend into September, I would guess.
A working day contract?
It's a working day contract with a fixed completion date, so basically we give the contractor a set amount of time, and then we fix the completion date, so he has a little bit of room to delay the start if he wants, but given the amount of work, not a whole lot of room to move.
And then in regards to the deferral or potential deferral, I know for a lot of us that's going to be a very key decision as to whether or not we are for or against this Eagle Crest going as part of the nature trail. Partly because of the fact of when we found out about this was relatively late in the game and how much time we've had to prepare for this type of assessment. So being able to defer that to the following year makes this potentially more appealing versus making everyone having to figure out where they're going to get this additional money for just this year's assessment becomes a much more difficult scenario, especially considering there were people who did contact the city last fall, this spring, and were not told that this was a potential option.
We understand all that, and I think you may hear from some of the council members later in the meeting when we discuss this. You may get some indication, okay, where people are at. Anyone else? Okay. Last chance. I will close the public hearing at this point. And there's no plan commission report. We'll give you one more opportunity in the public forum. We go into item number 6, which is a public forum. The public forum is also an opportunity for the public to address the council. That's on any issue that they would like. So if there's any issue you'd like to talk, outside of tonight's public hearing with regards to this project, if there's any other issue, now is your time to do it. And if there's something you remembered with regards to the other question, we'll open up the public forum. Once again, we ask that you give your name and address. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on the public forum portion of tonight's agenda?
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. Eric Mattson, again from 1560 Kingswood. My property adjoins the Carpenter Preserve in the back, and I have a concern that there are a lot of dead elm or ash trees in there. Who do I contact about getting those at least felled so that they can be safely removed?
Thanks. We are being pretty aggressive on ash trees throughout the city. Trevor Fink is our city forester. We just took down 3 behind Memorial Park, and when we take these trees down, I'm the guy who gets the phone calls on why we took these trees down. So, and I think some of the aldermen do too. But the emerald ash borer disease, we're being very proactive. Jerry or I will let Trevor know. So it's your address is what?
1560.
1560, and so it's behind your property in Carpenter Preserve. And we'll have Trevor go out and take a look. And one of the reasons we want to get them down is if they are diseased, we don't want them falling at the wrong time on someone. So we've been pretty aggressive.
Thank you. Yeah, these would fall into the yard if they fell that direction.
Okay, thank you very
Appreciate
much for bringing it to our attention. Alderman Stevenson.
Yeah, I would ask the council if they would consider adjusting our agenda.
Okay, I'm going to close the public forum. There's no one else at this point? Anyone else for the public forum? Okay, seeing no one, I close the public forum, and then I call on Alderman Stevenson.
I would ask the council if they would consider adjusting tonight's agenda to deal with item Roman numeral 10C1 at this time. I would, if seeing no objection, I'll make a motion to adjust the agenda to deal with that issue at this time.
Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Stevenson, seconded by Alderman Paul to readjust tonight's agenda and take up item number 10C1A at this time. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No. That's ordered. That's now before us. Item number 10C, item number 1, Board of Public Works, Vice Chairman Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. There's one action item on the agenda for that this evening. Board recommends recommendation regarding awarding contract 3-18 Nature Trail Subdivision Construction to go ahead with that work, and I would so move.
Alderman, does that include the alternative?
Yes.
Got to get the computer caught up here. Alderman Hillstrom moves, seconded by Alderman Lendrum. So the item that we've been discussing is now open for discussion. Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm also on the Public Works Committee, and I just wanted to say congratulations to our engineering staff for going the extra mile to find this positive solution. Going with the two parcels or two subdivisions together seems like a great way to use economy of scale. As he said, where you stage things, the low price of the asphalt. So I will, and the fact that the small thing like the intersections where you don't want one subdivision paying for it and the other one gets a free ride, or the other one, to do it all together makes a lot of sense. So I, for one, will be supporting giving the contract to MCC Incorporated.
Thank you. Jerry, can you, Director Kaiser, can you give us the total dollar amount just so we have it on the record then? The motion is to do the base bid plus the alternate for a total of?
Well, the motion is to do the alternate bid, which includes all of the work. Total bid price of $1,464,822.55.
Thank you. And for those of you in the audience, the original estimate for the base bid alone was $1,011,000, I believe.
That's correct.
$1,001,000, and that came in by the low bid of about $750,000. So that was one of the reasons why the entire project came down. But I'll get into a little bit more of my comments in a minute. First, we'll have questions and comments. Alderman Paulno.
Yeah, Director Kaiser, just briefly, if you could summarize the delta between the base and if I understand it correctly, it's about $350,000?
The base bid actually came in at $997,000, and the alternate again at the $1,464,000. So we're $467,000 difference.
Okay, but that's not the original budgeted dollar amount was how much?
The original budgeted dollar amount was $1.11 million.
So with that scenario, we need additional dollars, capital dollars for this project.
That's correct.
I guess my question would be:
That's correct.
Was the intention to, since we already had done our borrowing, or was it to use the capital reserves, or has that been discussed? I didn't hear that piece.
It was discussed at the board. I'll leave that to Mike and the mayor.
I think in the end, the council is going to have to make that determination. Mike Easker has identified possible funds.
Yes, and I think you've identified that our public infrastructure fund reserve is very healthy. One of the reasons that we have that there is to give us the flexibility to be able to act quickly and move on things like this without it creating another need to borrow or other options. So we certainly have more than enough reserves set aside to cover that delta, as you call it.
Now, I want to, excuse me, I just want so that citizens understand, we are very fortunate in this community to have a council that for the past few years has been very good with your tax dollars. And when dollars are left over at the end of the year from spending projects, Alderman Stevenson, all the council members here have built up a very healthy reserve fund for these types of, projects and rainy day funds, so to speak, while not getting it too high, but we're in a very good position so that when things like this happen, which is not very often, and the first time since I've been here in 4 years, but we're actually, dipping in for something like this. So we're very fortunate that we're able to do this. Otherwise, we'd have to have a whole nother borrowing because we've already did our borrowing for this year. So if we if we didn't have this reserve fund, so I think the Director of Finance and the Council, as for the record, want to say that they've done a very good job, because otherwise we'd have to go out and borrow more money. Borrowing more money costs money when, they go to the bond council and pay people to do all these documents and everything. So we're very fortunate in that regard that we can cover this and quite frankly, maybe cover it so that we can defer the assessments for a year before we start getting paid back. Very positive. Alderman Paul.
Yeah, I just want to, process-wise, I think it would be prudent to identify that in the motion that the budgeted dollars is X and the overage, so to speak, for lack of a better term, would be Y, and identify that funding source. So I don't know if that would be a friendly motion.
I think that's a good suggestion. City Attorney.
That can administratively be added if it's acceptable to the mover and second.
Would you like to suggest that as a friendly motion?
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a process thing to clarify, I think.
Sure. So Alderman Hillstrom had made the motion. Alderman Hillstrom, is that okay with you?
Sure.
And Alderman Lundrum? So the funding source will be the, Mike, the reserve fund?
Budget the borrow.
Oh.
The number is $352,942. So that difference would come from the public infrastructure fund balance.
What is that balance right now, Director Easter?
We're ending 2017 at about $3.7 million.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for that suggestion. Alderman Coons.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question, I guess a couple comments. First, Dr. Kaiser, maybe you can help me here. I think at the beginning, at some point, there was a perception that we have two different groups of roads here. The idea, at least the perception, was that the first group, Nature Trails, was more expensive per lineal foot, or however you want to put it, than the second group. And part of that was of the intersections and those kinds of things. I'm just curious, if you were to flop these and do the second section first, in a sense, I would assume they would take on those intersections, and maybe they wouldn't be any different in price. Am I on the right track, or am I?
If you flop the Eagle Crest work with the Nature Trails work,
yep.
The unit price estimate, or the assessable foot estimate, if we included all of the Eagle Crest items, would be higher than it is as a standalone with the way we have arranged it. Yes.
Okay. I wanted to make sure that we weren't. We were trying to lower the cost by taking this other section that was somehow less expensive. It's less expensive because we would have already done a lot of the unaccessible work of the intersections and those kinds of things. So that makes me feel better in that we're simply looking at scale at this point, doing more roads, lowering the price based on that. So that makes me feel better. I had concerns about this project from the beginning, and of no fault. I think we were understanding just what I talked about. Part of it is you have one section who would be paying for intersections, other parts in another subdivision that wouldn't have to pay for that. And you have this probably not best equity in doing so. So that's part of it. Part of it was just bringing the whole cost down. And part of it is if you're going to work in an area and get it all messed up, let's get it all done. So there's a lot of reasons to pull this together. But coming at the late hour makes it difficult. I think it makes it difficult for the people here. We had special meetings and we try to deal with that, but we went through a lot of hoops. And maybe that's just how life is, and sometimes it gets messy, and we don't always make the perfect decision, but we try to make it better as we go along, which at least we're trying. Did you?
I have a significant correction to make on the bid tab here. The $1,464,000 is just for the nature trail Eagle Crest work. That does not include the trail on G or the 2-inch mat on Cavalry 5 or Castle Oak 5. So the actual total amount of the contract with the alternate is $1,711,633.97. $1,711,633.97. It does not adjust the assessment numbers that you saw earlier.
Right. Yeah, well, let's be clear about that so these people don't have a heart attack. All right, so the 1.711 number is the contract number with the contractor that incorporates a combined Nature Trail Eagle Crest project at $1.464 million.
That's correct.
Plus additional work elsewhere in the city. Okay.
That's correct. I apologize for that.
So one guy went turned white out there.
You got the fireman. You got the AED out there. Okay, thanks, Jerry.
Thank you for the transparency, because we have to be, council has to be concerned about approving contracts. So a $1.7 million contract is what we have to approve. And then we have to define, for you people, we have to define the scope and how we're going to do it. So
Mike, will that change the number comes out of the reserve?
No, I'm assuming that other money's been budgeted as well, correct?
So the only impact it has is total cumulative number. Okay. All righty. Alderman Bates.
If I could finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That was... So, as I was saying, I had some concerns about this project, but I also wanted to see the price, because the combined price, because I thought that we should just take a look at that one. But my concerns are a couple. One is at least from my perspective, when projects come to us for roads, we typically pass them and move forward. There's not a lot of variation, at least that I've seen over the years. This one was different, and I made it very clear from my perspective, this was different because we added it late. From what I heard out here is I did not hear one person say, don't do it. Now, people might be thinking that, and no one said it, and I heard a couple people say they wanted to do it. And by the way people ask questions, no one seemed to be adamantly against it. Because that matters. If everyone out there is saying, no, don't do it now, my vote would be let's not do it now. There's probably a lot of good reasons to do it now, but this one I was listening more so than ever before because of the timing. So I want to make that clear. But what concerns me a little bit is what we've done, and I think it's great that we've tried to do things to ease this as much as we could for people. But I'm concerned sometimes that we haven't maybe done the same procedure on other roads. Maybe it hasn't been the exact same scenario, but I'm a little concerned of consistency in how we deal with every citizen in a consistent manner. And that concerns me a little bit. There's also in this, there's some things that we need to talk about that we haven't. One is built into these pricing is we're saying since we went past 8 years, and 8 years is now the magic number for a 2-inch mat, that we will pay for the difference 10% per year that we do it after. Not a bad idea, but I'm not sure we've done that consistently in past years either. So that's a concern. Plus,
We haven't said that. We've brought that up as a possibility.
well, that's in the pricing. My assumption is
Not in the pricing. Alderman
it's
Cruz.
not- it's not in the
That's why I
estimate.
want to stop you. That's not in the pricing, so I want to clarify that.
so the pricing
You're
in here.
reading that wrong, okay?
Well, I have numbers that with those in here.
That's not what the motion is.
Well, I'm not sure what the motion is in comparison to that.
Go ahead, we'll have Jerry clarified, okay?
Yeah, we did run those scenarios, but the pricing that I presented earlier, the estimated assessment rates, that was based on standard ordinance assessable items. There was no assumption of any city involvement at that point.
I just wanted to clarify
Thank you.
so that you knew.
And that's fine. And then that's the other one is we've got several items here. And I've heard at least from one person, I think a few other people were certainly nodding, and that was, well, it depends if we defer the cost that matters to them. But we're not going to decide that till later. What we do with the subsoil, we'll decide later. It's a lot of laters. And so everyone's clear, the decision tonight is yes or no, do we do the road? And if it's yes, it's yes. And if it's no, it's no. So it's a black and white decision with other items to come. And some of it's, again, I get it, some of it's just messy in this process. I think in an effort to try to do some good things, it gets a little messy. But it's a concern, again, more from anything else for me, from a consistency standpoint, that we're doing the same thing. We're treating every citizen that comes before us in the same manner. I'm not sure if we're doing that here now or not. And that's, I don't want to say concern. I think you try to do the best you can with the situations you have. And so we're trying to do that. But it is one where I wanted to bring that up because if we do this, I want to make sure we're doing this for all roads and all people who come before us, which will get messy, get messier in the process, which might be just fine. But I'll be voting for us because what I've been hearing people is not a whole lot of angst about not doing it, and at least a couple saying for it. So.
Thank you. I apologize for interrupting you. I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page here. The city attorney tells me, unfortunately, you're right. I mean, it's the second piece of this puzzle that I know a lot of people are concerned about is the deferment, or when they have to start paying. Unfortunately, we can't deal with that tonight. It has to take place after the decision made to award the bids and all that. So kind of stuck there. What we're trying to do, and we've talked a lot as staff and as the mayor about, what's about precedent, setting precedent, which you're talking about, setting precedent for the next time and make sure we're treating people the same and correctly. I will tell you in this case, we are being very careful, but we are trying to do the right thing. We're trying to, and this is a unique situation. This is a different situation because it's not a reconstruction. It's their initial road, so to speak. So everyone who lives out there knew at some point that there was going to be an assessment for your road. The developer set aside some sidewalk, money and things like that, but there was going to be an assessment. So we're trying to do the right thing. I understand what you're saying, but unfortunately we have to wait to do the second part after this part. But they'll have the same opportunity to contact their representative, their councilman, and let them know that, because how this all landed, they would like or not like to see that assessment heard. Next, we will have Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. One item that came up at the Public Works meeting, or a question, was the last major subdivision that we did with replacing a mat with construction of a street was in my area, which was Castle Oak. And I asked Jerry how the rates came in a few years ago, and they were in the low 60s as well. So in this sense, by doing all their extra work, has gotten it down to something that seems reasonable for everyone. So it's not like we're not going beyond what other subdivisions would have expected. So it made us feel much more comfortable in what we're on the path we're going on now.
Thank you. Alderman Boyette.
First, I would like to start off, Mayor, by acknowledging your last statement. I don't think it's a fair statement to say that just because these people have a new road that they knew sooner or later they were going to be getting this, some are actually getting it sooner. So that's not really a fair statement to make. Secondly, I do agree with Alderman Coons. I would like to agree on this motion, but unfortunately, we have this stipulation of the deferment payment. I don't think it's fair to some of these people because of the timeline and how it unfolded. I do understand it, and I'm not naive to the fact that we did this to try to make it better for everyone. However, some people are being, some people were not aware of this, and I'd like to acknowledge that. And yeah, they're going to get it, maybe a year or two, and maybe they plan that way, but I can't help, that just kind of sticks with me. I just can't help, but somehow I have to relate to that. So, and there's no way we can put that in this motion because we have to get the bid out, right?
The agenda item is for approval of the contract. The consideration of when the assessment occurs. But the consideration of whether the assessment will be deferred is part of the final resolution consideration, which will be before committee next week and then before the council on the 17th.
So I can vote yes on this and then vote on the deferment later?
That's correct. That'll come up, it'll be considered, the proposal will be considered as part of the final resolution package in the special assessment process next week at the committee level. And then the recommendation of the committee will be before the council on the 17th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other comments or questions? Council President Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to dovetail on Alderperson Kunz's comments regarding perceived consistency that we, while strive for in all of our decision-making, very rarely are any two decisions in a capital improvement project 100% consistent from year to year. You have cost differentiation. We had been made aware of this, the extended wear and tear of the mat layout, nature trails area. That's a new procedure and methodology that the city came up with for various reasons. And various reasons we chose to extend the period of that, which causes extra costs to help ratify it, but to make it whole when the road finally does get built. So my point without rambling is we have a responsibility to treat this process with equity and fairness. And so to that point, we have done good here. We have taken a high-cost project. We've added another part of the project. Alderperson Kunz's credit. We have one construction season, not two. We have project getting done. I have had more people tell me they want the project completed in the Eagle Crest area and have told me they don't want it completed. But at the same time, we have the residents have a financial investment in this project, and we have shared with them, to our staff, answering in good faith that this project is slated for 2020, so they plan their financials. So I will and I'm at the risk of upsetting the city attorney, I will discuss my thoughts about the funding mechanism and say, what's the negative of extending the terms out to 2019 when we save all the goodness in the project, get it completed in 1 year. These people have suffered for it for 12 years, some of them who live there. and yet they didn't have a chance to plan for it. So what's the negative? But so that will be my message 2 weeks from now, ever. But I fully intend to support this.
Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that I support the project. I think it's great news that the bids came in as they did. And I think in the long run, this will save the city and the residents money. So I'm supportive of it. Thank you.
Alderman Paulno.
Yeah, I think this whole discussion is driven by our estimating process. And Director Kaiser, the number that has been floated out a lot, and I've asked modification of the 110, that was kind of what drove this whole thing, because everybody had a heart attack when they seen those bills. How, just process-wise, how do we develop our estimates? We do a CIP 3-4 years out. And how did this $110 amount specifically get identified?
The CIP, we create our estimates prior to doing physical survey work. When we create the actual assessment rate for the report, that is after performing design work for the project. Generally involves a little more intensive, certainly more intensive field screening, and observance of conditions, and then we take a good hard look at what pricing trends are that we've seen through our contracts and what we're seeing through the DOT annual average unit pricing. So we pull that all together when we put those estimates together. As I mentioned earlier, the 110 was, and the original design was based on our standard level of work on a new subdivision street, which incorporates the various cross slopes in the terrace area in the front yard, along with the cross slopes on the roadway and the width of the roadway. The first thing that we did, even leading into the design, was look at the roadway width, what we felt was necessary for width versus maybe what was originally intended when the plat was laid out, just to see where we land on that. The second part, and really what played a big role in this one, the original design called for a significant amount of undercutting on Whispering Pines Lane. So we had a fairly large excavation number, along with a large gravel number to fill in the holes that we were creating when we had to undercut. The Whispering Pines and Nature Trails were both impacted that way. We looked at the cross slopes on the yards leading into those, felt that we could slightly flatten those, which ends up picking up the grade of the road slightly, which means we don't have to undercut as much as we originally laid out. So it was, the 110 was based on the standard design, and then we continued to work on it after that to refine it and try and lower the cost.
So it's fair to say you used a different engineering strategy to come up with the solution.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Question? Anyone else have any comments or questions? If not, I'll just end up here. Jim has one thing he wants to clarify before.
To clarify that the motion is for the low bidder of MCC Appleton to be included in the motion for the dollar amounts previously stated.
1.7.
Right, correct.
So, all right. So with that clarification, Alderman Kuntz?
Just a clarifying question. When I was talking about the how we were looking at the option of reducing the cost of the project, taking on the 40%, when does that get addressed? And because we're not setting a price at all, we're just setting a contract, and then what people would pay, their price could change, could go down, depending on what we do with that. Would that happen the same time when we look at the next 2 weeks kind of an issue?
Yeah, I think that would all get rolled into the discussion for the final resolution for Eagle Crest, yes.
And so...
Tonight we're just approving the bid.
Yep. Just so, the people have numbers out there, and you know how that is. You get that number in your head and you're done. and so that could even get slightly better. I don't want to say, but that could change depending on what we do. Thank you.
All right. Well, I would just, like to add just a comment or two, because I've been working pretty hard on this since it first came out, and I think Todd and Christopher made some good points. This fairness thing, since I've been here, assessments themselves seem to me to be not fair, and we're going to maybe later this year look at assessments with regards to street reconstruction projects, hopefully. But we do try to be fair. We try to have equity. Some people, it's hard to be fair because some years oil prices are up, some years oil prices are down, some year the contractors are begging for work, some years they have so much work that they all bid high, and so each and every year, and there's no rhyme or reason, or there's no, if your street comes up, that year might be a good year, the next year might not be a bad year, so it's very difficult to treat everyone the same, but and estimates, I asked a lot of questions with regards to the estimates, and we are going to change our policy. I think one of the, people have been calling in to the department for some time and asking about what, the projections were, and we were giving numbers, and then we ended up at a different number, and so we're going to look at that, but estimates are just that. Estimates are estimates, and you do your best guess. I was on the State Building Commission for 8 years in Madison, and we did a lot of projects. And at the end of the day, I'm willing to bet 90% of those engineers and 90% of those people hit those estimates, usually less than 1% on billion-dollar contracts. And here, most of the contracts that we've had over the past 4 years, at least since I've been mayor, those estimates have been pretty darn close. And if you can hit those estimates at 1% or less, that's a pretty good average. It's like going, 3 for 5 in the majors every night, and you're going to make $1 million as a ball player. So, they do their best with estimates. I think at the end of the day, when this first came up, and Alderman Stevenson and I met and said, these numbers were pretty scary. And we tried to find a way, and the suggestion that I had was to combine the projects, and Todd and I talked along with Jerry, the possibility of going to bid and see what kind of bid we would get on an economy of scale, a larger project. These companies like to do big projects. There's more money in doing big projects. They can cut their margin a little bit. We asked about the staging of a project. That in itself, to bring all that equipment there and then to bring it back again in 2 years from now, there's costs involved with that, so they can shave their pencils a little bit, so to speak. As Alderman Stevenson pointed out, to have that neighborhood, that entire neighborhood, done in 1 year versus disrupting it 2 consecutive years, all the dust and all the dirt and all the phone calls to the mayor's office. Because of that, you can't have your windows open in the summer. I don't want those phone calls for 2 years. I'll take them for 1. So all those reasons, and then the simple fact that at the end of the day, when it, the bottom number was, $80, that was the estimate, and we're at $67 now. I break this down to very simplistic, and that's $13, 100 linear feet is the average lot, as I understand it. That's over $1,300 savings for all the residents. It's a lot more than that from the initial estimates of $110. The driveways are going to be a pretty good price because that's not included and that's extra. So I do understand the concern, and it scared the heck out of me when I suggested moving up Eagle Crest from 2020 to a year, because I understand budgeting. I understand the fact you got to plan for it. You got kids in college. You have bills to pay, and you knew it was coming, but you didn't. You planned on it, and that the impact this was going to have. So I can pledge to you that this mayor is going to work hard to convince the council. I think you've heard from the council president and others that the deferment and trying to, get this closer to 2019 next year to help out those residents is something that I'm interested in and something that this council may or may not be interested in. We're going to continue to look at other ways to make this possibly better, but we have done our job, I believe, and quite frankly, we can roll the dice. We can do Nature Trail this year and roll the dice for 2020. And you may get a better price or you may not. And so it's a decision that there is no right or wrong answer, but I hope that each and every one of you know that we took this pretty seriously and spent a lot of time and effort in determining what we felt was the best. But more importantly, we listened to you. We listened not just the people who are here tonight. There were emails that were sent to individual council members. I received some emails from people. Many of those emails were from people who weren't here tonight who said, Mayor or to the council, that they prefer to get the entire project done tonight. So I can tell you that we did get quite a few emails from residents in that area. So this wasn't an easy one. This was out of the norm. We appreciate your indulgence in this and your consideration and talking to the council members and talking to me in that on what you feel is the best course of action. We're going to try and do what we think is the best, that you want us to do and that we feel is the best for the residents and the community. So I hope that, when we have the discussion on deferments, we keep in mind the comments that we heard tonight. And we have a healthy reserve, and I think that's a positive that we can afford to float this, so to speak, for a little while so that we can give some relief to the homeowners in that area. How's that, all in one breath? Anyone else have any last-minute comments? Okay. There's a motion and a second. Supposedly you don't want to restate the motion. Changed a couple of times, but we all understand the motion, correct? All right. All in favor of the motion will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine, please. That motion passes 9-0. And for the people in the audience, so now what happens is, I want to be clear, and if I'm wrong, Todd or someone correct me, but next Tuesday, the Public Services and Safety Committee will meet led by Chairperson Bates, and that committee will discuss the assessment. Pardon?
The final resolution.
The final resolution regarding assessments. So you're invited, if you'd like, to come next Tuesday, spend some time with us again. And then the following Tuesday, which is the 17th, and that's because our council meetings are normally the first Wednesday and the third Wednesday, but because of the election, by state law, we have to have our meeting on that Tuesday, which is the 17th, when we will seat the new council, will take action on what was passed or not passed in the Public Services Committee next Tuesday. So there's still an opportunity. Send us an email, send us your thoughts, things like that with regards to the assessment process, okay? I'm going to go a little bit out of the ordinary. Does anyone have any questions with regard to process? From the audience? Okay.
I just want to be clear that the Public Services and Safety Committee next Tuesday will discuss the assessment final resolution and make a recommendation to the
Chairperson Bates.
And usually we meet across the hall there. So if we're not in here, we're over there. But if we get enough people, we'll come back over here. So we appreciate any comments you have.
All right. So that takes care of your issue tonight. You're welcome to stay and listen to the rest of the riveting.
No offense.
I think we're having cookies after, too.
I didn't bring that many cookies. But you're welcome to stay. Anybody that stays can have cookies.
That's why the fireman is staying. You heard there was cookies. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. We appreciate listening to you, hearing you. Thank you. And those of you at home who are watching, who live in that neighborhood, if you have any questions about what went on tonight, go on the web, go to Who's My Alderman, and find out who your alderman is. Call me, and we'll get you in touch with either Jerry or someone who can answer your specific question if you didn't quite fully understand what went on tonight when you watch this at home. So, all right. Thank you very much, everyone. I think that was very well done. All right. Where are we, Todd? We have to
Item
go
8,
back.
consent agenda.
Okay, we're going to go back now to the regular agenda. Go to item number 8, which is the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Alderman Paulno moves, seconded by Alderman Stevenson on the consent agenda. All in favor? We'll vote aye. All opposed? Vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 9-0. Item number 9 is the report of the Standing Committee, Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of March 27th. Chairman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor, and the minutes can be found on the city website. Committee recommends council approve the purchase of a replacement drone for a total of $2,551.02 using city preparedness grant funds, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates, seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. Is there any comments, questions, or discussion? Alderman Paulno.
Yeah, question. This one, the $2,500 seems a little lower than the first one we bought. Did we get a rebate or a better deal, or am I just not remembering? I thought the first one was like $4,000.
You're absolutely correct, sir. When the drone crashed, it crashed the drone, but we still had the control unit, so we didn't have to replace the control unit. So we still have that. We just had to replace the flying part.
Was this a Pat Fisher retrofit in the basement kind of action, or?
Nope, it's a complete replacement of the drone and the camera.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Boyette.
So I have a question for you, and this is the mother, excuse me, the mother and the grandmother in me. What measures have we taken to ensure that we don't make the same mistake again?
What does that make me? Because I asked the same question. The team has gotten together, those who pilot, and it's always two persons flying at a time because one operates the drone itself and one manages the camera portion of it. And so the new internal policy is they will walk the route that they're going to fly before they fly it, if they can. If they're flying across the river, they have to eyeball it. But as much as possible, they will walk that route and make sure that they see every obstacle that's there.
Okay. Questions? Alderman Erickson?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for Chief Wilkinson. Is there some type of insurance on this next one, or you can't get insurance for this, or?
It is insured, but our deductible on it is, what is it? 1,500?
15,000 on the.
Oh, 15,000 on the deductible. All I remembered was that it was, our loss was less than what the deductible was.
Thank you.
Okay. There's a motion and a second to approve the purchase of a replacement drone for a total of $2,551.02. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. That motion passes 9-0.
Item 2, committee recommends council approve the signing of a 5-year contract with Axon, which is formerly known as Taser International, for police body camera equipment, maintenance, and data storage fees totaling $20,432.16 for the year 2018 to be paid out of the CIP account 011-2133-743-8133 with total cost of contract over a 5-year period of $111,656.16, contingent on confirmation that the contract includes 39 cameras and the replacement cycle is every 2.5 years. And I would so move and ask that question about the confirmation.
Okay, there's a motion by Alderman Bates.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. Alderman Bates.
Yes, so the 39 cameras, Captain Olson is going to the desk.
Yes, it is 39 cameras, and it is every 2.5 years.
And then, so the second set we'd get at the last year, we have an option of continuing just renewing a contract, and those would not have to be replaced in the first 2 years. So it would be kind of a locking of 2 contracts together.
That's what we believe, yes.
Thank you.
Alderman Coons.
Thank you, Mayor. I've had several concerns with this. First of all, the strange nature of it set up. We're getting cameras beginning, middle, and end, which is, I'm not sure what happens after that because we have a contract that we just got cameras for, but now the contract ends the day we get the camera, the day we get them. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense the way they've structured it. Plus the storage pieces, the pricing and what happens to that is concerning. I'm not sure what's going to happen. And when this contract ends, then what? They hold it. How do we get it? This, I get what you're trying to do, and it's not. But the way they structured this is putting us, I think, in a difficult bargaining position going forward. Because first of all, we'll have their new cameras, so we'll be forced almost to get the next contract, or they won't be servicing those cameras. And then the storage becomes, I think, a nebulous piece in which costs will just escalate, and we don't have a whole lot of structure to figure out what it should be and how it should be set. So it leads us, I think, in a difficult position moving forward. I'm not sure if there's a great solution for that. I know there's not a lot of competitors here. I guess I'm doing the talking, and I should ask the question, and that is how do we, once we get the cameras at the very end of this deal and the contract ends, how do we continue that? And are we stuck with this? And do we have a clear idea of storage and the costs and be able to contain those costs?
All good concerns and questions, and Axon has the market cornered on cameras. There's a few others, but they don't come close to what Axon can do. And they are a very forward-thinking company, and we don't really have the ability to negotiate with them. This is their contract for all the police departments, and that's the way they get us for the next contract. Because if we say no, well, we go find a vendor, but it's not as secure, it's not as good. We have to pay for data, whatever the case may be. So in the area, Appleton PD and Oshkosh PD, they use Axon. The county, they use Panasonic, about the same price, not nearly as good. Menasha uses a much cheaper version of software and cameras. A lot of downfalls to that. Axon's the best. They realize that, we realize that, we're paying for it for that reason. I don't know if that answers your question, but we're at their mercy because they're the best, and we need to have that equipment. So,
not sure there was an answer, but thank you.
Alderman Paulno.
Yeah, there was discussion how long ago when Director Winninger came for a storage component, and he said part of the justification for that purchase was this data from the police department. Apparently, that's not the case. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. What are our options as a city for having a redundant storage capability? Maybe that's a joke question, but if Axon has all the data, can we retrieve all of it if we wanted it tomorrow?
I can't answer that. I'm not sure. I highly doubt that we would be able to afford that
because of the amount,
sheer volume that we store every day is more than we could afford as a city, in my belief.
As far because of the data amount.
Correct. I don't think we could afford those kind of servers in the city.
Oh, we just bought 2 new ones, so I don't know what they can do and can't do.
Right, and that's a Joe question, but I think we'd max those out pretty quick.
Yeah, and this is always my concern when we buy software here and servers there, and we don't have a global continued discussion. I always advocated for a subcommittee for IS, have these discussions. Maybe, but we keep doing pieces and parts that are all interlaced. Look at each other. Well, I don't know how this fits in. This is always like this is a Joe question. Fortunate for a city because left hand sometimes doesn't know what the right hand's doing. But
no, I understand, and with Axon, for us to retrieve what we need is instantaneous, as opposed to the other companies. It's very easy.
Unless they get bought out by Microsoft, and the next day they change variety software, which happens with software. That's my concern. That
sure
they gobble each other all the time now.
Alderperson Bates.
Thank you. One thing we did discuss at the meeting was by having the data stored elsewhere as opposed to on city servers, it gives you a provenance that's away from us. We don't have our hands in it. They said that there's an excellent system covering this so that when anybody goes in and touches it, it's listed, it's logged, it's whatever. So if you have a case where whatever, someone's coming and suing us, we have the backup of saying we didn't touch it. We have proof that no one touched it, and that was a level of security.
And that's a very good point and very true. Yes.
Alderman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderperson Kuntz's comments and questions were actually discussed at committee level concerning the length and the ending of the response from Edgar at the time and Aaron was the same as we just heard tonight. And so my original reaction to that was, that's maybe not in the best interest. But then afterwards, I got thinking about my belief in the open market system and the fact that in the environment that these cameras are in and the product development cycle, the stage they're at right now with all that's going on in this world, there's an opportunity for someone else to enter this market. And so I'm holding, while they may hold the cards today, I'm hoping in 5 years that the market has caught up to them, and that it might be a good thing that we didn't extend beyond the 2.5 or the third replacement, because my guess is the market itself will provide opportunities.
Anyone else? Comments or questions? Okay, thanks, Captain. All in favor of the motion will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine, please. That motion passes 9-0.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Item number B is the regular Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of March 26th. Chairperson Paulno.
The minutes for that meeting can be found on the city website. The committee recommends council approve the 2017 operating budget carry forwards to 2018 as submitted. Carry forward requests total $186,922, broken down as follows. General fund, $141,788. Parking fund, $39,134. Stormwater fund, $6,000.
Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Paulno, seconded by Alderman Erickson. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 9-0.
That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 10. There is no report from the Plan Commission. Item number B, the Neenah Joint Fire Commission. That will be Council President Stevenson or Vice Chair Coods?
This is the...
this is the... I'm sorry, the commission. So, Alderman Stevenson, would you like to give that report?
The commission met on March 28th, and their recommendation to us was that the City of Neenah Common Council and the City of Menasha Common Council approve the Regional Fire Department hiring process with Fox Valley Technical College, effective March 8, 2018 through March 7, 2019, and I would so move.
Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Stevenson, seconded by Alderman Paulno. With us tonight, we have Shift Commander Ryan Krings, who's filling in for the chief. So if there's any questions, Ryan could answer them. I appreciate you being here. Alderman Coons?
Thank you, Mayor. One question. I look at the notes. It looks like there's also a desire to change the hiring minimum recommendations. I think right now they have to be a graduate of the tech or something like that. Is that included in what we're voting on here, or is that something that's handled separately?
That's in this contract. That's the only change that was made, was to allow any associate's degree. We were kind of tied to Fox Valley Tech. This is going to allow us to have a larger pool of candidates to choose from.
And that is already, I was trying to find it, but okay, I take your word for it.
It's in the contract.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Paulno?
Process-wise, my memory is faulty, but didn't this action item usually come through the Neenah Joint Finance Committee?
It has in the past. This time the commission took it up and made the recommendation. I will talk with the chief. I think next year it should come through the joint fire finance.
Yeah, because it's always come through that joint. Okay.
Yes.
I mean,
I think this is a case where the chief, being new to the process, thought it come through the committee.
Okay.
Well, the alderman on the committee, do you have any thoughts?
No, Alderperson Paulno is absolutely correct. It has historically come through the Neenah Joint Fire, but my assumption was that it got changed because it truly is a hiring process, which the Fire Commission has a total authority over. So I'm okay with
We'll talk about it for next year. So they would send it to your committee, they'd take a look at it, and send it on. Anyone else? And I do think it's a good, Chief had talked to me once about in NWTC, there's a lot of other places that have quality programs. Fox Valley Tech is, their public safety is well respected and well known all over, but a lot of other good ones out there too. So I think this does open the pool a little bit more.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. All in favor of the motion to recommend the approval of the contract with Fox Valley Tech, vote aye. All opposed will vote no. That motion passes 9-0. Item number C has been dispensed of. Item number D is the Board of Canvas. Council President Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm reporting out from the Board of Canvas meeting that occurred earlier today, and they submitted the following report. Well, we have compared the ImageCast Evolution ICE machine printout with the immediate return sheets as followed by the Elections Board of the City of Neenah for the spring election held on Tuesday, April 3rd, and confirmed mayoral and aldermanic election votes as follows. The office of mayor, Dean Coffert, received 3,023 votes. There were 95 write-ins. Dean Coffert, having received the highest number of votes cast, is hereby declared elected mayor of the city of Neenah for a 4-year term expiring April 2022. In Alderperson District Number 1, Danae Steele received 588 votes. Brian Defferding received 352 votes, and there were 3 write-ins. Danae Steele, having received the highest number of votes cast, is hereby declared elected alderperson in the 1st Aldermanic District of the City of Neenah for a 3-year term expiring April 2021. In Alderperson District Number 2, Marge Bates received 1,055 votes. There were 23 write-ins. Marge Bates, having received the highest number of votes cast, is hereby declared elected alderperson in the 2nd District of the City of Neenah for a 3-year term expiring April 2021. In Alderperson District Number 3, Todd Stevenson received 887 votes, and there were 9 write-ins. Todd Stevenson, having received the highest number of votes cast, is hereby declared elected alderperson in the 3rd District of the City of Neenah for a 3-year term expiring April 2021. This was submitted by our Board of Canvassers, Chris Sullivan, Marcia Anderson, and Patricia Sturm. And I would move to place on file.
Second.
There's a motion to accept the report and place on file. Discussion. Alderman Boyette?
Yes, I'm just curious, what was our overall percentage turnout?
28.5. Thank you.
Good. I just would like to compliment the clerk and the deputy clerk and all the poll workers. That's a long day for them poll workers, and they did a great job. Patty and Lori and her crew did a good job too. They seemed to go off pretty well, and just before the election, there were little health things going on and some other things, so they did a nice job for all of us. And the night before, we were all worried about a snowstorm hitting and what impact that was going to have in the morning, and that didn't happen, so it all went over pretty well. So, nice job. The Landmarks Commission, is there a report? Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor of the motion to accept and place on file, vote aye. All opposed will vote no, using the roll call machine. That motion passes 9-0.
I'd like to acknowledge the staff as well for the election results and also efforts. I also like to congratulate all the candidates, whether they won or lost, for putting themselves out there to be scrutinized, to put themselves through the process. Whether you won or lost, the desire to participate is truly welcome, and we just need to have more of it.
Thank you for those comments. Item number E is a report from the Landmarks Commission. Alderman Lang.
Thank you, Mayor. The Landmarks Commission met on March 13th, and there's just one item. The Landmarks Commission approved funding for one of the traffic signal box wraps that we had presented to us at previous council meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Sustainable Neenah Committee, Alderman Coons, anything?
Last meeting was canceled due to spring break.
Spring break, all right. The bid board, Alderman Lang.
Thank you, Mayor. There's no report. There was no regular meeting. I had the annual meeting for the bid board at Greens last month.
Okay, thank you. And Bergstrom Mahler Museum, Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. There are two upcoming events at the Bergstrom Mahler Museum. This Saturday, April 7th, there is an art activity day from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can come and make a recycled wine bottle planter. All ages are welcome, and it only costs $15 per person. And then on Thursday, April 19th, from 5 to 7, it's Art After Dark at the museum. And this month's theme is PJ Party Game Night. So there will be some board games. You can come in your PJs if you want. You can make a cup out of a recycled wine bottle for $15, and there will be beverages available for purchase. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Item number 11, any petitions? There are no petitions. Item number 12, council directives. Are there any council directives? Alderman Lundrum?
I think Alderman Paldo and I are going to be talking about the same thing, so I think I'll defer to you first.
Okay, Alderman Paldo?
Okay. My intention was to remove my council directive or make a motion. That's what you intended. So
I was just going to do a follow-up on that. So
Alderman Paldo, you have a motion?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to remove council directive, date of directive October 5th, 2016, related to the street assessment policy. My motion, remove it.
I will second that.
There's a motion by Alderman Paldo, second by Alderman Bates, to remove that council directive. Alderman Paldo? Okay. There they go. Any discussion? Seeing none?
Wait.
Alderman Stevenson?
I thought we changed. Did we change this to put it on the directives? We had to get notice, and then we voted the following meeting. Looking through my minutes right now.
So you put it on, take it off. You just need to vote once.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. I have no problem taking it off.
Leave my name here, but won't help much.
I thought both ways. We did the motion one meeting and did the final vote at the second one.
Not to take it off, to put it on as
City attorney tells me we can vote on this. Any comments or questions? Carrie, do you have a comment on the motion?
No, but I will follow up. I just want to make a comment that I'll be following up about this motion right after.
Okay. All right, so Alderman Pono has made a motion, seconded by Alderman Bates. All in favor will vote aye, all opposed will vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 9-0. And Alderman Lendrum, you have a comment.
Yes, thank you. I wasn't really clear. I'll ask the city attorney if I want to re-add that on with me, the same council directive as with me being the sponsor. Is that a motion?
That's a motion. When it
For the
requires a
next-
second, the vote would occur at the next meeting.
Okay, so I would like to move to put previously Alderman Polno's street assessment council directive on the next appropriate agenda with me being the sponsor.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, that'll
Makes
be voted on
sense.
next meeting.
We're not going to let you vote next meeting, Bill. There's a motion and a second. That's one for the memoirs when I write them. When I write them, that's going to be one of the things, Bill. You're going to be in there.
I think those will sell.
All right. There's a motion and a second to add that as a council directive. It'll be voted on at the next meeting. Thank you. Any unfinished business? Alderman Bates?
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to ask you to remind the governor to sign the bill or the amendment that would allow staff or the council members to work as poll workers again, because it's gone through both houses and
Thank you.
he missed the last election. and
Yeah.
We want to have,
The legislature passed a
no, but they've passed it. He just needs to sign it.
legislature, both houses of the legislature passed a bill which will allow council members to work at the polls, that they're not involved in that.
They're not on the ballot.
They're not on the ballot, things like that. There are some provisions with regards to it. Common sense bill, League of Municipalities supported it, passed both houses. The governor's been just sitting on it with about 60 other bills that he has not signed yet. He is going to get to it, I'm told, by his staff. I asked them to sign it before this election because it made sense in case anyone wanted to work it, but they have not gotten to it yet, but I understand they're going to. So
The deadline for submitting the bills to the governor is April 24th.
We'll just have him add some verbiage about Foxcom, and he'll deal with it right away.
Ooh. Good point. We are going to, I'm going to move on to new business item. Oops, I'm sorry, Alderman Palmer.
Just unfinished business. I was quick question for Director Kaiser in regard to the sanitary sewer study. When was your timeline on that?
That is coming to finance next week. I was hoping to have the final report this afternoon, but I'll give Mary a call, see if I can get it in the morning. And that'll go out to council as soon as I have it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dave's been kind of busy with bid opening and everything, but yep, good reminder there, Alderman Palno. We're getting closer to doing that sanitary. Update. Under new business, there will be some appointments made at the April 17th, 2018 organizational meeting. My appointment to fill the expired term of James B. Guns on the Fox Cities Room Tax Commission for a term that expired April 2019. I will be talking to Jim and asking him to stay on. Mayor Crawford's appointment to fill the expired term of Randall Fieldhack and Patricia Rickman on the library board for 3-year terms. Mayor Crawford's appointment to fill the expired term of John Ailes on the Community Development Authority for a 4-year term. My appointment to fill the expired term of Mike Falks as a public representative to the Joint Review Board for Tax Increment Districts for a 3-year term, and my appointment to fill the expired term of Nick Pirgosi on the Plan Commission for a 3-year term to expire April 2021. I'm also looking for a couple other ones. Also, I believe a Board of Appeals and Board of Sustainability, and one other one. We're still looking for people. So those will be the appointments. I would remind folks that Alderman Stevens and I will be getting together to probably we'll send something out to you. We'll send someone out to you, and we'll discuss it on if you want to switch committees, if you want different committees, if you're happy with the committees you're on. You could be like Madison, where they stripped people of all their committees and didn't give them any recently. There were a couple of them, but we'll send that out, right, Todd? That, yep. Okay, and with the new member also. We're going to have those discussions. If there's any rule changes that anyone would like before when the organizational meeting would like to consider a rule change, make sure you get that to me. And then I would go to item B, which is any announcements that may come before the council. I'd like to remind people of a couple things. Monday, there will be a committee of the whole before the finance committee meeting. This committee of the whole will start at 5 p.m. for those of you who are interested, with an open house with SEH and a 5:30 cow with the 30% design for Arrowhead Park that people had asked for. We're going to do that in a committee of the whole with regards to that. That is Monday. At the next meeting, we'll also be discussing the garbage recycling contract and that. Not that meeting, but we have something to take up there from last. Barry? Oops.
I thought that was going to next council meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It looks like some of those people out there, when they heard you give the number.
That was a 1.711 look right there.
That's a $1.7 million look. Sorry, I want to clarify. But yeah, the next council meeting. And then anyone else, before we get into our last issue, we'd like to, anyone else have any other things going on or announcements? Alderman Lundrum?
I just want to say that, did you say 5:30? Because it's posted at 5, the SEH.
I
thought you said 5:30, but it does say
5 o'clock
5.
is the open house with SEH.
Yep.
So that's 5 o'clock. The actual cow will start at 5:30.
Okay.
So
we're noticed correctly.
So I'm noticing the open house. So they're going to be available for you to ask them questions and look at some things on boards. Okay? Thanks. All right. Alderman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, with the report of the Board of Electors, it does represent a bittersweet night for us. So Alderperson Bill Palmo's career as it currently exists ends tonight. I'm not opening the door for maybe future. But when Dean and I talked and we got together to order a plaque for Bill, I was actually kind of surprised. I was shocked, quite honestly, that you haven't been on the council. You've been on the council since 2012. It seems like you've been here forever. So, and that's a good thing. I try to say something prolific about all council members that leave, and I can't say anything real prolific about Bill other than the one word. That is tenacity. If there was a council member that defines tenacity, whether it's following up on an issue, whether with the council, whether it's following up an issue with staff, whether it's representing his opinion, or whether it's follow through on something that one of us said, 13 and a half months ago. Bill Pauno knew about it, and he followed up on it. That's a trait that not everybody has. So the citizens, the benefactors of that tenacity are the citizens of Neenah. So on behalf of those citizens and staff, I want to thank you for your service. And we have a plaque to present to you. And on it, it says, we, the Neenah City Council, the Neenah City staff, and most importantly, the citizens of Neenah honor William Pauno Jr., Neenah Alderman from 2012 to 2018. Served as Finance and Personnel Committee Chairman 2016 to 18, in appreciation of 6 years of faithful public service. Bill, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. I don't want to talk a lot because I talk a lot in general. So, elected officials usually talk a lot. So, all I would like to say is it's been an honor being on the council with everybody. We hear a lot of talk about how much we talk about issues. I've always taken that with pride because I think when you have passionate people with professional civility and respect and asking a lot of good questions, you will get the best answer. A lot of times it can be a challenge, it can be pithy, but I think we do it in the best intentions, everybody. And I just want to say, I just hope I was able to make Neenah a little better.
Thank you very much, Alderman Pauno. The mayor has to have the last word, and Alderman Stevenson did a great job on behalf of the council. But I do just want to take a minute just to say thank you for your service. I have been in this game of government for a long time, and I have seen a lot of players. I've seen a lot of people come and go. I've seen people who are there and take up a seat. I've seen people who get things done. I see people who do their homework. I see people who just kind of do enough to get by. And I can tell you that you've earned my respect throughout this council, this community. You have served your position very well as an alderman. You've served with dignity. I admire your dedication and your commitment to the community and to this council. You've done your homework. You ask good questions. There are times when I kind of maybe shake my head, but you do your homework, and that impresses me. And I think we're all well served, and this, like you said, this community, this council, you've made it a little better, and that's really important. So I want to thank you on behalf of myself and the citizens of this community, because I really mean it when I say you will be missed, because you brought a lot to the table here. Two things in particular I'm going to miss are the words quantify and delta. So if anyone wants to pick up, so maybe it's 3 words. So if anyone wants to pick up those 3 words, they'll now be available. And that's all the fun I can have with you. But you did your homework. Neenah's better off because it had you for 6 years as a councilman. And we're going to miss you. Alderman Stevenson.
One more thing. I was working with Bill trying to figure out what we might want to do afterwards. And so I suggested maybe we go out, we have a cake or something. And this morning, I hadn't heard back from him. So this morning I texted him and said, what do you want to do? I said, you want to have a cake? Whatever he sees. His response was, I'm not really a cake guy. So we have cookies and milk, water, juice downstairs in the lunchroom afterwards.
We brought the cookies up. But
we did bring them up. Okay, good. Well, I'll run down and get some. There's drinks down there too.
Oh, okay. All right. So thank you. Thanks again, Bill. Good luck to you, and we're going to miss you. All right. Anything else? staff or anything? I think did a good job tonight with the public hearing and everything, and we had a good night. So we will look forward to the organizational meeting, which will be Tuesday. Remember that? April 17th. And that'll be the meeting where we organize and get going for another year. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Paulno, seconded by
Boyette.
Alderman Boyette to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We're adjourned.
Broadcasts of the City of Neenah Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin-Fox Valley. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents via the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues or about these broadcasts by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or by completing the electronic feedback form on the city website, www.neenahgov.org. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.